Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for having me. Simone, thank you for the introduction. I am really excited to be here, and good morning to everybody. And yes, it is a very interesting time that we're living in. I feel amazing about the fact that I get to live out my life's purpose every day and to talk to people about these kinds of things. And I feel like microaggression is one of the topics. While I work with companies to help them to create sustainable environments for marginalized people in the workplace, I think that microaggressions is a very important topic for everybody because the word micro, that's why I said it's not as small as they seem. It's happening all the time. I think constantly, all day, every day, in so many different ways. And it creates a huge problem. And so we're talking a lot lately about systemic racism and how it's, a system of different little pieces that add up and that create this bigger problem. And I believe that microaggression is really, really at the root of that. So I'm just excited to have the opportunity to share. And I'm always happy and willing to share with people who want to hear and want to listen and want to learn. So thank you for coming in and stretching yourself in that capacity. So we're going to use the chat function to just kind of talk back and forth. Since we have this whole virtual thing going on, I want to make it feel as real as possible. So you can see down in the chat button, if you would, you guys, if you would just say your name, where you're from, I would love to know like who's in here, just saying hello. Another thing that I like to do during my sessions is, so the name of my company is Yum Yum Morale. And I'll tell you, good morning. Yeah, the name of my company is Yum Yum Morale. And people say, you do diversity, equity, inclusion. Why is it Yum Yum? Because I wanted to, first of all, I like to make my message a little bit more palatable, a little bit more interesting to learn about. And I want you to learn to ask questions. I want you to learn to say, that doesn't sound right. Why? And to be open and curious rather than judgmental or already have your mindset on what it is and turning away from it. So another thing that we like to do is when I say something that you can relate to, or I really helped you, or I inspired you, I love for you to type in the chat box, yum or yum yum, just to let me know that you're here. Hi, Liz from Samamish. I don't think I ever say that right. I suck at saying that, but it's beautiful over there. A house painter, people are here. Okay, good. Good. Stephanie Kirkland. Thank you. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna be focused and I'll look down every now and then. But so I've experienced microaggression firsthand. And the reason that I put this picture here, because it reminds me of a very interesting story, something that happened to me. So my career was corporate meeting and event planning for over a decade. A very coveted role, a lot of times because when you get to a certain level, you are doing a lot of traveling, you're eating at a lot of nice restaurants, you are staying at some of the best places. And so there's a lot of nepotism, a lot of like bring my friend in, things like that. However, at this particular place, and I am kind of putting them out there, but they're no longer even in existence, so it's okay. But at the time, I was putting together an event for their graduates, and there was going to be an after party. And I was kind of new to the organization, and so there was the man that I reported to, the president, and there was a woman, an older white woman, that would help me to learn or navigate my way around the campus. And we were talking about the event, and she mentioned bringing her husband, and I said, hey, can I bring a guest? And she said to me, sure, as long as he doesn't have braided hair and gold teeth in his mouth. That hurt, to say the least. And that's the kind of things that a lot of marginalized people just kind of have to eat, because what do you do if nobody stands up and says anything about it? So microaggressions are a statement, action, or incident regarded as an instance of indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group, such as racial or ethnic minority. And that's something that people don't think about. When you hear microaggression, you don't realize that puts you over into that line of discrimination. And that's why it's way more important than we like to think about or realize. And that's why you want to be cognizant of it. You don't want to be accused of discrimination at work. You don't want your company accused of discrimination, and you just don't want to treat people badly. So I want to talk about the different styles of microaggression. So we did talk about there being indirect, there's subtle, and then there's unintentional. All right. And so first of all, there's the indirect, and the definition is not directly caused by or resulting from something. It's incidental, it's secondary, it's contingent upon another act. And so if you see this picture here where it says boomer, if you would imagine going into an office setting and somebody's sitting there and they have that sticker on the back of their notebook, and they're just going through the meeting. What if there's somebody who's triggered by that word? What if there's somebody, and so I'm hoping, let me not assume everybody knows what boomer means. Does anybody know what that signifies or what that means? Anybody? No? You guys, somebody has to know. Yeah. It signifies that particular age group. And so it can be offensive because it leads to this thing where a younger generation is annoyed or frustrated with the older generation. And there's this disconnect in communication or how they see things. And so, you know, somebody sitting there with this on the back of their binder, it could hurt somebody who feels like they may fall into that, or they've had some type of conflict before centered around that word. And so that creates that negative environment in the workplace that's just unnecessary. So you have to be very cognizant about little things like that. Something you're thinking, it's my personal binder, it's a joke, my friend gave it to me. You have to be cognizant of things like that. Then there's the subtle, you know, it's delicate, it's precise, difficult to analyze or describe, it's indistinct, indefinite, over nice. In my culture, we call it throwing shade. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that term, but it's like, did they just shade me? They just throw, it's like you can't really put your finger on it, like that nice, nasty kind of thing. And so you've got this guy here saying, that's an interesting new hairstyle there. Do you like it? You're not familiar? Yeah, yes, we call it throwing shade. That's a African-American colloquialism. So when somebody says something, or it's like that's shady, you know, like is this underhanded, backhanded comment. Simone says she knows all about it. So yes, like, that's an interesting hairstyle. You like it? I'm like, oh, first of all, if I didn't like it, why would you even ask me that? And what if I did like it? So that would be kind of subtle. And in my opinion, definitely intentional, right? I would think that would definitely be intentional. And then there's this unintentional, right? And this is where it gets like, oh my gosh, am I having to walk on eggshells? No, I just want you to be cognizant. And that's why we're here, to learn about these things. But unintentional, it's not done on purpose. It's unintended, it's accidental. You know, so this person, they're looking together at some stuff on the computer, and she says, these were totally my college days when drugstore makeup was acceptable. Ha ha ha. You know, like, yeah, you know, back in the day, we used to wear our drugstore makeup. Totally making this assumption or insinuating that back in the college days, it was okay to wear drugstore makeup, you know, just almost oblivious or kind of in this person is in their own box or lives in a certain world and not open to the idea that there are some people in every age group and at every phase of their career and life that may choose to wear drugstore makeup and pull it off well, but it's very offensive and it creates an issue. All right. And so it's a big deal and it runs really deep. And I really like this graphic because it shows us how it kind of starts. You know, microaggressions, they're a result of instances, scenarios, and experiences collected over the span of our lives. The act of being a microaggressor isn't necessarily about being a bad person. It's indicative of a society where certain stereotypes are ingrained in our cultures, different cultures. So it depends on where you're from. There are certain things that are acceptable. There are certain things that are not acceptable. Where you're from, when people say one thing and it means another thing. And so microaggression, I believe a lot of times to kind of tame it, it's genuinely about having this open mindset and about realizing that different people have different economic statuses, different educational levels. It depends on your resources, right? What did your friends do? What was acceptable for your family? What kind of media were you watching? What was your level, your class? All of these things make us different, give us a different way of understanding and perceiving things. And if we're not open to that and mindful of that at all times, it's very easy for us to be a person that is putting microaggressions on people. Not good. All right. So a deeper look at microaggressions, you guys. So there's these different types. So here we have where people can be against gender specific. If someone says, you're so pretty, you should smile more. Anybody familiar with that? Anybody ever heard that before? You're so pretty, you should smile more. That can be a microaggression. It sends a belief that that women should smile, or that people they view pretty should smile, right? And it's like, would you do that to a man? What is your definition of pretty? Why does that matter? It just gets really tricky, and it's a very unnecessary thing, I think, to say. And it's also like the control of a person's emotions, or trying to control how someone presents themselves. And it's just not really good. Okay. And then there's the sexual orientation, which a lot of people who a lot of people are offended by this all the time. And I think there's a lot more education that needs to be had about this. But if someone says, nice haircut, I can see that you are the more masculine one in the relationship. Huh? Yeah, has anybody ever heard anything like that? It's a pretty bold statement to say, you know, to make this assumption about someone. And so this message, the message that's sent, the underlying message that's sent, is that the person that says this, they place a value in gender roles and assume that the person that they are speaking to feels the same way. And it kind of puts somebody on the spot that may not be interested in discussing that at all. It's highly inappropriate. And then for disability, for disabled people, they hate this. When someone says, hi there, let me get that for you. And then they remove the bag from the person's hands and just starts taking it for them. That sounds fairly innocent. Sounds like you're trying to be really nice. But that says that that person is assuming that the disabled person struggles when carrying things and that they need to do it for them. So anybody knows what would be the right thing to do? For instance, if you were to see this disabled person carrying something and you felt like maybe they needed help? Ask them first. Yeah, it's just the simple, hey there, did you want me to get that for you? Did you want some help? Same thing you would do with anybody, right? Treat them just like you would treat anybody else. This idea or making this assumption that they just need you to take it from them is where the issue comes in. All right, any questions before we move forward? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Elizabeth. All right. Then there's the religion. Someone says, oh, wow, I never would have dreamed that you were Catholic. That's, you know, this is like people who are just not thinking, right? I never would have dreamed you were Catholic. That person assumes that all Catholic people either look or act a certain way. I don't know. When someone says that, it leaves you like, well, what do you dream of a Catholic? Look, okay, yeah, I'm Catholic. And then there's class. I really like this one. It says, how cool. I would purchase jeans like that at the thrift store when I was a teen. I loved them and I ended up giving them to my cleaning lady. Ouch. Ouch, right? Like this woman it's that class thing. It's like, I would never get caught in those at this age. And I gave them to my cleaning lady. So there's just a lot of assumptions and things happening there, and just kind of rude. I just took down my wind chime since the workers were shorter than me. He could have used a ladder and ladders were all over. I just took down my wind chime since the workers. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. And then we have race and color blindness. I see us all as human beings. I don't see color. Anybody willing to admit that they have said that? Anybody willing to admit that that's been a term that they've used? I see us all as humans. I don't see color. Thank you, Steve. for admitting that. Anybody can admit that they felt that they thought that that was an appropriate answer. Steve is the only person. All right, well, Steve, it's just me and you. But a lot of people that I have talked to have said that they don't see it. And it's tricky because it sends a message that you're uncomfortable with my race, because you can definitely see it. Like, there's no hiding it. I can't decide that I'm not going to be a Black woman today. It just is what it is. And so this notion of saying that you don't see it indicates that you don't see me. I do understand that a lot of times the sincere message is, I'm not judging you. I'm seeing you as a human, and I see us as humans, and I want you to understand that I don't see you as lesser than. However, when you say that, it comes across as a demonstration of you being uncomfortable. And so just keep that in mind. So microaggressions happen because of a lack of consciousness or awareness, a lack of knowledge, information, a lack of comfort with diverse people. You have these unconscious biases, fear of unknown, and lack of empathy. Anybody familiar with unconscious biases? That's a really big one. Anybody familiar with that and how that plays a role into things? So I'll just say that we all have them. All of us, we have them. They are there for us. They are created through our experiences again. And we have to be very conscious of that. I've heard stories once where somebody was saying, you know, they were taken off on a plane and they were all happy and about to go on the plane. And then somebody said, ladies and gentlemen, we want to announce that this is, I don't know exactly the words, but something about this wonderful female pilot. And the person was like, whoa, okay, am I going to be safe? And, you know, you have to kind of check yourself to think that, like, why would you just think that because there's a woman flying us that I'm not going to be safe? And if we don't check those thoughts, especially in places such as the workplace, it can be really hard on people that are just, you know, you can have these biases and these thoughts that you think you have about people because of a certain gender or race or what have you. And so we have to become conscious and become aware of those thoughts, and we have to challenge them because we want to be better people. All right. So do you guys know of some ways, if I was to ask you, and this was a big one too, empathy. Empathy is huge. You know, when you have this lack of empathy, you somewhat put yourself first. You somewhat make yourself more important than other people. And so if I were to ask you different ways to increase your empathy, what would be some suggestions that you might have? What would be some suggestions that you might have as far as how you could increase your empathy? Which is obviously empathy, I guess we should explain, is, yeah, listening. You want to kind of get on the same page with somebody to kind of feel where they're coming from, to have that connection, to see where you bond. So listening is one for sure. Oh, my computer. Uh-oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, listening is one for sure. Be curious. Yes, instead of judgmental, let's be curious. Let's just genuinely be curious. I really like that. So some ways to strengthen your empathy: read books. There's so many good books out there that are giving people story and giving you insight into their experiences. And shameless plug, I didn't even think about this, but I'm going to stick it in. I am actually releasing my own story called Confessions from Your Token Black Colleague. It comes out August 21st. Really soon, around the corner. So if you look that up online, you can follow me. There's a website and the whole nine, but I'm giving you those firsthand experiences. And part of my mission is to create empathy in people, for them to see it through my eyes as I'm telling those confessions. So talk to and get to know new people that don't look like you. People, you've got to do it. And it's not easy. It can be scary, but push yourself to do it. Try out someone else's life. Put yourself in their shoes. Admit your biases to yourself, to somebody, and check your privilege. It's there. It's there. And, you know, being defensive about it won't get us anywhere. So check your privileges, learn about those privileges, ask questions. Thank you, Simone. All right. I think we don't have a lot of time. There's these videos, but I'm going to skip that. I just want to talk about some of the thoughts that people feel when they experience microaggressions, some of the questions and the things that people have to go through. And it happens a lot to marginalized people, you guys. So just here's where I want you to be empathetic. Am I overthinking what they just said? Like I said, was that shade? Were they trying to be funny? I don't know. Perhaps I misunderstood them. You got this gaslighting thing going on where you're asking yourself, am I, you know, what's going on? I wonder what they meant by that, when it leaves people unclear about what you actually meant, because it was so, what's the other word? Oh gosh, I can't think of the passive aggressive. Yes, passive aggressive and microaggression goes hand in hand. So you're like, what did they really mean? Should I mention this to someone, you know, or do I hold this to myself? And it creates that anxiety, you know, and saying something could cause problems for me. They'll say that I'm being oversensitive or combative. My coworker saw it and they didn't seem to find that weird. And maybe I'm overreacting, and speaking up just isn't an option. Can you imagine having to feel that way? That's life for a lot of people. All right. And I think I gotta quickly hurry and come to a close. However, some of the psychological consequences: anxiety, depression, insomnia, diminished confidence, feelings of helplessness, loss of drive and motivation, intrusive cognitions, that internal dilemma, and diminished cognition. And that's not good. Like, how can you perform well or be good at your job? And it's horrible because it, again, plays into that systemic racism, because now you've done it. I've got these weird thoughts. Now I'm feeling sick. And then on top of that, I got to try to do my job and nobody really cares. And it's really hurtful. And it would be nice if people would care enough not to do it because it hurts. All right. And so the consequences in the workplace is that you get these damaged relationships, you get the procrastination, the poor quality, the lack of enthusiasm, lack of concentration, missed days of work, and overall lower morale, you guys. And then I'm going to quickly give you some things. When you are the microaggressor, I want you to take a deep breath, realize that you're not a bad person, lower your defenses, and empathize, acknowledge the other person's pain, apologize, learn, and become better. When you are a target, again, take a deep breath, remain calm, give that person the benefit of the doubt, right? Just, you know, maybe they aren't trying to be mean. Think about it before you take any action. Ask clarifying questions. Wait a minute, let me make sure. Did I hear you say? And focus on the event and not the person. Don't tie that to the person as who they are. It's the event and what they did. And if you are a witness, you can step in and say, I'm sorry, did I hear you say? Or go to the person and offer validation. If they say, did she say? Yes, that's exactly what I heard. Be strong enough to offer validation. Be an ally and speak, you know, actually speak for yourself and say what it is that you saw. All right. And I think that my time is up for a few questions you guys may have. So yeah, that's what we have. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Tali? This has been so amazing, Tali. I've learned so much.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm a nurse, and I think this relates to like business environments as well, but I often find I have like patients who will refuse care from workers of other races, and we're not really in a position to like, you know, not give them care. So how do you work with either like a client or someone that you have to provide services to that may be aggressive or microaggressive to your coworkers or yourself?
You know, I think in those particular situations, especially when you don't have a lot of control, I think that the focus should be on protecting your colleague without, you know, hurting your client. But I just think that the first goal should be, if that was to happen, I would want an ally to step in and just say, hey, I got it. I'll take care of it. Because at the end of the day, we can't change everybody. There's going to be these kinds of situations, but I think that a healthy work environment protects that person that's being hurt by the client. Obviously you'd want to attempt to stop the client from doing those things, but the easiest and best way, I believe, is to just make sure that your coworker doesn't even have to deal with it. Just take care of it. It's my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great question, Anna. And Elizabeth had a question about what's the difference between microaggression and passive aggression?
They are so similar, you guys, which is one of the reasons why I think it's such a good topic for me. I am so the opposite of passive aggressive, and this topic gives me that chance to pick on passive aggressive people, but let me say that it's not so much picking on you, because we all have our things, right? I'm very straightforward and outspoken, and some people hate that. So, you know, it's about striking that balance. But passive aggressive people tend to do a lot of microaggression. It's just the facts. So they're very, very similar, but a lot of times the microaggressions are, I believe, they're more unintentional than a lot of the passive aggressive acts. I feel like the passive aggressive is just a coping mechanism for some people that they do all throughout their lives. So, yeah.
Wow, Tali, thank you so much. This has been so phenomenal. Monica and I were hiking the other day in preparation for this event today, and we were talking about all of the stereotypes that we have. And I mean, we started going through the list, and there were so many different things that it just kind of kept going on throughout our hike the other day.
I would say we each had like 15 conscious or unconscious biases. It was really funny and interesting.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that, because I always encourage people to get with other people that you can be real with and say, this was my unconscious bias. This is what I felt, and to say it out loud to each other, that's amazing. More people need to start doing that.
It makes you realize how ridiculous some of them are.
It is, and having done that now, I just feel it is so important that people talk and listen to one another and have the conversation going back and forth about those biases that we don't know that we have but are really there. So Tali, thank you so much. And we would love to have you talk again later in the year, but thank you everyone for joining us this morning. On behalf of Rebel 11, we really appreciate your time and listening to this very valuable information.
Thank you.
So a couple of things.